Welcome. Please don't forget to hit the like button, share, and subscribe for more daily greatest history mistakes in America. October 27th, a date that has seen America make promises it couldn't keep and back political allies that would become its greatest enemies. It's a day when a president's words would haunt the nation for decades, and a foreign policy decision would fuel a global crisis. What's the common thread? A catastrophic failure to see the future consequences of today's actions. This is the story of America's greatest mistakes on October 27th. Welcome. Some of history's most costly errors aren't accidents. They're decisions made with the best of intentions that spiral out of control. They're the result of short-term thinking with long-term devastation. On this October 27th, we're examining two pivotal mistakes. One was a speech that created an impossible standard for American power, and the other was a deal that armed a future adversary. Let's begin with a speech that changed everything. Mistake number one. Teddy Roosevelt's Speak Softly speech, the birth of the Big Stick, 1901. It's 1901. America is emerging as a global power, and a young vice president is about to define a foreign policy doctrine that would echo for over a century. The context and the speech. On October 27, 1901, just weeks before becoming president after McKinley's assassination, Theodore Roosevelt gave a speech at the Minnesota State Fair where he famously said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick, you will go far." The mistake. While the phrase itself was about diplomacy backed by strength, its implementation became the big stick diplomacy. The error was establishing a doctrine of aggressive, interventionist foreign policy that prioritized military might over nuanced diplomacy. It set a precedent for the U.S. to act as an international police force, creating an expectation of American intervention that would lead to countless entanglements throughout the 20th and 21st centuries. The consequence? This doctrine directly influenced interventions in Latin America, the Banana Wars, and set an ideological precedent for later conflicts in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. It created a legacy of American imperialism and resentment in many parts of the world, with the U.S. constantly feeling the need to wield its big stick, often with disastrous and long-lasting consequences. The lesson: a foreign policy based primarily on the threat of force, rather than sustained diplomacy and cooperation, creates a cycle of intervention and blowback that is difficult to escape. Mistake number two. The New York World's Fair protest. The cost of backing the Shah of Iran, 1964. From a doctrine born in 1901 to that doctrine's catastrophic result 6 decades later, on the very same date. The context: the U.S. heavily backed Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran, as a key Cold War ally. His regime was notoriously corrupt and brutal, propped up by the CIA and American arms. The October 27th confrontation. On October 27, 1964, the Shah and his wife visited the New York World's Fair. Their appearance triggered one of the largest protests the city had seen, with thousands of Iranian students and American supporters denouncing the Shah's dictatorship and U.S. complicity. The mistake. The critical error was the U.S. government's decision to ignore these clear, public warnings. They dismissed the protesters as a radical fringe, doubling down on their support for the Shah and his secret police, SAVAK. They failed to see the deep popular anger that would soon explode. The consequence: the U.S. policy of unwavering support for the Shah was a direct cause of the 1979 Iranian Revolution. The revolution brought to power a fiercely anti-American theocracy under Ayatollah Khomeini. This led to the 444-day hostage crisis, a permanent rupture in U.S.-Iran relations, and the creation of a state that remains a primary adversary of the United States to this day. A key Cold War ally became its greatest strategic nightmare in the Middle East. The lesson: supporting authoritarian regimes for short-term strategic gain is a dangerous game. By ignoring the will of a nation's people, the U.S. often sows the seeds of long-term hatred and instability that ultimately harms its own security. Conclusion. So, what connects a presidential speech and a royal visit? They both represent a failure to foresee the long arc of history. Roosevelt's big stick created an interventionist mindset, and the backing of the Shah was its logical, catastrophic conclusion. One set the trap, and the other sprung it. October 27th teaches us that the most dangerous mistakes are often the philosophies we embrace and the allies we choose without considering the future price. The lesson is to lead with wisdom, not just a big stick. Which of these foreign policy mistakes do you think was more damaging? Let me know in the comments. If you learned something today, hit that like button and subscribe for more daily history. Thanks for watching.